Broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown studios inside Santander Stadium. Welcome to Revs Hot Stove Weekly, your preseason home for York Revolution baseball, and the only place to hear the latest player signings first. Revs Hot Stove Weekly on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports. Now, here are the hosts of Revs Hot Stove Weekly, Darryl Henry and Atlantic League Manager of the Year, Mark Mason.
And welcome all to this next to last edition of Revs Hot Stove Weekly for the preseason. Happy April to everyone. And as we peel back the curtain and reveal all of our secrets, due to scheduling, we are not live this week. We are actually recording the program here on April Fool's Day. Mace, good to see you. And that's not an April Fool's joke. I do mean it.
Thank you. Good to see you too, Darryl.
Do you have any good April Fool's jokes from the past? I'm really not much for that.
No, not really.
I don't like humor in general. I just like to,
Well, I know that's not true. You like humor. We just can't think of anything for April Fool's Day. So, no, I'm excited. What is this, our eighth? Is this the eighth show?
This is the ninth.
Ninth show?
Ninth, wow. Yeah. You lose count. And I don't know what the weather is going to be like on Friday when this thing airs, but today it's quite nice, so we're getting there.
We needed to stay like this for a little longer. Yeah. This is a good start, but we needed at least another 10 to 15 days at least.
Yeah, and the first report date for everybody will be April 13th, correct?
Well, the players will be here on the 11th and 12th that weekend, and then we're going to get our team physicals on the 13th, and then we'll be on the field for the first time officially on the 14th.
First-time fans will get to see them as at Fan Fest on the 18th, Saturday home game against Somerset. So that's kind of cool. We're playing an actual Atlantic League opponent on that date for the first time, and we've done so many different exhibition games over the years. I'm not sure that there's anybody left other than Atlantic League teams to play. We've been through all of the ideas.
Yeah, we were actually going to try to schedule something with Lancaster, but they're leaving for Texas early because they opened the season down there. And this year we're just going to play 4 exhibition games. We're going to play Somerset twice and Southern Maryland twice, and the rest of the time we'll do inter-squad practices, working out. But we have a lot of pitchers that we need to see, so we'll be playing some games in-house here on the days we don't have exhibition games.
We will unveil a couple more of those on this week's show. So we're looking at 3 this week, and we've saved 2 for next week, and keeping a spot open in the event that there's a surprise. But if not, we'll talk big picture next week, and that'll be the final show leading into the start of spring training. So it is right around the corner. Ray Jensen, by the way, is in here with us manning the board. So we've got our full crew here and ready to go. And Mace, do you like where you are with everything? I know we talked last week, you don't want to wait till the end. You want to lock up who you can. And as far as where you stand here, less than 2 weeks away from actually starting camp, are you happy with what you've assembled? And obviously we haven't announced all of it yet, but getting there, are you comfortable with where you are?
I'm comfortable. I like our roster. I think we have some diversity. We're going to have some guys trying some different roles this year, so that'll be interesting. Watching some of our relievers come in and try to be starters, but we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out in spring training in the first week or so of the season. Then after that, we'll just have to try to get the roles in place for the pitching staff, which is the biggest part. I think position player-wise, we're pretty much set with what we're going to do. I've made multiple batting orders, and I like what I see there, and I've showed those to Fletch and Polo as well. So we're all on board with our lineup and our position players. We're going to have to figure the pitching out, that's all.
Do you find yourself, for instance, at a restaurant writing down lineups on a napkin sometimes? Have you ever done that?
No, but usually in my head, or I'll pull up my phone and I'll put it in. I'll send a text message to myself or something like that. But no, there are some times in the middle of the night you just you reach over and you write something down on a piece of paper and those kind of things. But I really like our lineup this year, and I think we'll be able to go left and rights all the way down, and we should make it pretty tough on opposing pitchers. So hopefully the guys come in and we swing it well and get off to a good start.
And I know you have to see it. You have to see how everybody develops and all that. But do you have multiple ways that you think you could go based on who you've signed? I mean, some interchangeable parts?
We do have interchangeable parts. We have a lot of flexibility in the infield. Our outfielders can all play all three positions, so that gives us some flexibility there. Obviously, we can get Eric into the outfield if we want to, and Limo as well. And so I think we're flexible. I think our team speed we might be a little bit less than last year, but not much. But I do think we should have more power this year than we had last year. So I think those things should equal themselves out. And it's always the pitching. We're going to win with pitching and lose with pitching. So I think our defense should be fine. And like I said, we'll get the pitching figured out. I told Fletch he has a pretty big job this year with like 16 guys coming into camp that are pitchers, so it'll be interesting.
Well, and we'll get right into that here momentarily. Before we do, definitely that was a thing last year that had your team in just about every game, and it always starts with the starters. Do you expect that to be the same again this season, the way that you've built things?
I do. I like our starting rotation. I always like the bullpen. I think our bullpens have been good since I remember back in 2010. I thought the bullpens have always done a great job. We've been able to use different guys in the closer role and the setup role every year. We've been able to find some stability there, and so I do like where we're at there. The starting pitching, I think, actually on paper this year could be a little better to start the season than we were last year, but that's on paper. And obviously you have to go out and play. But I do like our roster, and just trying to weed through our starting pitchers and where they're going to end up. That's probably the biggest thing that we have to work on is how we're going to shake out that starting five. And at the beginning of the year, you need extra pitchers anyway to cover the first 6 innings of the game. So with what we're doing coming into camp, I think that'll be okay. But I also think at some point we're going to have to make some decisions based on how guys recover, if they need extra time because they're not used to the workload that we're giving them as a starter. And all those things, they just have a way to work themselves out.
Well, that is where we will start here this week. We will start with an addition to the starting rotation here on the first of our signings on this week's show. And Mace, one thing, I bet there's going to be some surprise with this first name, and pleasant surprise. I mean, it's only been a couple of years, but he wasn't here last year, and he wasn't here the year before that, so people may have forgotten about him as a possibility for your team, but you did not. He did not. And a very interesting signing, and a guy who put together one of the all-time greatest streaks in Revolution history when he was here in 2012. Our first signing of this week, heading to a starting rotation near you. Right-hander Sean Hill is back with the team, and man, when you look at about a month's worth of what a starting pitcher has done at any point in Revolution history, I'm not sure if you could find... I know for a fact you couldn't find 5 better starts than what Hill did, because he didn't allow a run during that time in 2012.
No, he didn't. I can't remember exactly what it was, 27 or 28 innings. It was something like that. But, he was coming off a thoracic surgery when we brought him in here sometime during the season in 2012. And we used him out of the bullpen a couple times to kind of get him started. And the results weren't very good coming out of the bullpen. I remember Ed saying to me, Mace, we might have to release this guy. And I said, well, we have to at least give him one start. He is a starter. He's not used to pitching out of the pen. We were just trying to build him up, make sure he was okay. And the first start he went out, I think it was in Southern Maryland. He threw like 5 scoreless. So I said to Etch, does he get another start now? And Etch is like, yeah, he gets another start, but not exactly like that. He said it to me. And then next thing you know, it's another start. And every time we took him out of the game, the opposing team had zeros up there. So you really couldn't get much better. You couldn't do much better than what Sean did when he was here. And I was actually surprised that he wasn't in spring training at this point. It was It was weird. We usually check in with each other every year just to see what was going on. In the last couple of years, he's been in big league camp and stuff like that. And then this year, he called me out of the blue and was like, hey, what's your situation like here this year? And then we talked for a while, and then he ran some things by his agent, and we were able to bring him back, and I'm happy about that.
Last season, we had announced that he had signed with WOYK sometime in mid to late March, and then 2 days later, the Blue Jays offered him a contract. So his name did come up around here last season, but he would then end up with 4 different minor league teams last year, and in a pretty decent overall season. His composite ERA was in the 4s, but it's when a couple of the games that stand out to me, he had one at Long Island when he was here in York the first time, where he threw first pitch strikes to 22 of the first 24 hitters. And then his last one, and I had forgotten this until doing some of the research the other day, his last start when he was having all these scouts here watching him, and we were getting contacted during the week by scouts, when is his next start and everything, that scoreless streak almost ended in his final inning. He had second and third with nobody out, got out of it, worked 6 scoreless innings against Southern Maryland, and ended up with 27 2/3 scoreless over those 5 starts. But talking with him, Mace, it's an unbelievable story where the thoracic surgery that he had gone through 2 Tommy John surgeries previously in his career. He'd gone through other things with forearm, and I know he had a left shoulder injury where he actually had a collision covering first base. So that wasn't wear and tear necessarily, but he was telling us that some of these previous arm issues, he really didn't have to have those things done. It was the rib situation that had never been diagnosed. They never knew about it until a few months before he came here in 2012, and all of a sudden his arm felt free and easy, and he thinks, and we're going to hear from him soon, but he thinks he should be even stronger now than he was back then, because he was just coming off that at the time.
And that's exactly right. When we talked, he always said the hardest part of coming off of that thoracic surgery was the cardio part of building himself back up to be able to pitch multiple innings. So it's just a weird thing where they remove a rib and somehow you get feeling back in your fingers, which is kind of crazy. But Wirtz went through the same thing this offseason. So it's one of those things that you would never think about when a guy's having numbness or whatever it was, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we'll take this rib out and that'll free up whatever's going on, and that's exactly what happened. The thing that I love about Sean is his pregame routine. Probably one of the greatest pregame routines that I've ever seen since I've been a pitching coach or a manager. On the day of his start, we would go down in the corner in right field, and at about 10 after 6, he'd be laying on the ground with his legs crossed, looking up at the sky. At about quarter after 6, he'd get up, he'd play catch with the catcher. Then at about 20 after 6, he'd get up on the mound, he'd throw 4 to 6 pitches, and he'd say, okay, I'm good. Let's go.
What?
So it was he would throw a cutter, a changeup, a slider, and it would be like, and then his sinker. And as long as the balls were moving, he really didn't care if he was throwing strikes at that point. And he would just say, I'm good. and we would have seriously like a 6 or 10 pitch pregame, and we'd be heading to the dugout.
Wow.
So and it was refreshing, because I see a lot of guys out there that totally beat themselves up before games, where if they can't get a pitch to work right, they don't want to leave until they can get everything exactly right, and you end up throwing a game down there. So, it's my job to try to get those guys into the dugout, get them get a breather before you get out there for the start of the game. And with Sean, I almost wanted to say, don't you think maybe we should stay here a little longer? But he's a professional, obviously, and he knows what he needs to do to get ready. He knows he's not a strikeout guy. He's a ground ball guy, and he wants guys to swing right away. So hopefully we'll see the same Sean that we saw a couple years ago.
Well, it was a blast to watch him then. I'm sure Revs fans are excited at the prospects of that again here this season. He admits while he may be stronger this year, the results might be tough to duplicate. I mean, he was just about flawless, but had an interesting chat with him yesterday. We're going to head to our first break here, but as soon as we come back, we'll hear from Sean Hill, took some time on the phone with us, and he is our first signing unveiled here on this week's show. So we'll head to our first break right now. We'll hear from Sean Hill when we come back. You're listening to Revs Hot Stove Weekly here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Turning a double play takes teamwork, and so does preparing for life's challenges. Murray Securus works with you, hand in hand, providing thoughtful solutions to help you plan for the future. Team up with Murray Securus for safer, more secure risk management, personal insurance, health benefits, wealth management, even cutting-edge human resource solutions for individuals and small to large businesses. Living life in a winning way just takes a little teamwork. Call Murray Securus today at 397-9600 or go to murrayins.com.
Black Cat Brewing Company is a new brew pub featuring 8 taps of fresh, high-quality craft beer brewed on premises. Enjoy a variety of pub food, including appetizers, soups, panini sandwiches, and desserts, which are prepared by Red Lion's own Red Brick Bakery. Enjoy a casual, inviting, and family-friendly atmosphere as you relax with family and friends while enjoying some of the area's finest craft beer at Black Cap Brewing Company, located at 5 West High Street and Red Lion. Open Thursdays from 4 to 9 p.m. and Fridays and Saturdays from 3 to 10. Check out Black Cap Brewing Company online at blackcapbrew.com and on Facebook. Hey Revs fans, swing into spring at bundles of savings at the York Revolution. The Swing into Spring ticket plan gets you 6 field box seats to the game of your choice, 2 parking passes, plus admission for 2 to take live batting practice on the field at 2:30 for the Revs' 5 p.m. game against Long Island on Sunday, April 26th. Swing into spring with the York Revolution. Save when you shop at the Apple Chevrolet ticket office by phone at 717-801-HITS or online at yorkrevolution.com.
Under center with McNabb and Malone.
I just think from the very beginning, Roger Goodell and the NFL has made so many mistakes that now everything is starting to pile up.
And the NFL, I think, has fallen woefully short when it comes to this player conduct policy that they have. It's outdated. They need to come together and put a stringent, clear policy together that does not allow all 32 teams to work individually to determine what it is they're going to do with a player if he does X, Y, or Z.
Under center, 3 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports Radio.
Hey, this is Mark Malone from NBC Sports Radio. The Revs play here. Catch York Revolution Baseball on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
As promised, we got our interview with Sean Hill lined up, Major League veteran, and the first signing announced this week. And listen closely. I guess the connection wasn't the greatest. The service area, we were talking to him from Florida yesterday, but should be able to make out everything that he said. And interesting chat with Mr. Hill here on this week's program. Well, Sean, great to hear that you're coming back. And first of all, give me your thoughts on returning to York. I would imagine that, having been here a couple of years ago, is there a certain comfort factor just with the surroundings and everything and knowing Mace and everybody?
Yeah, 100%. Going through the process, obviously trying to get picked up and that stuff. But when, exploring the options for coming to Indy ball, one of the big things for me was the comfort factor. And knowing that when I was there previously, 2012, I really enjoyed myself. So that obviously goes into the decision. There's a lot of things that go into it, but that was, for me, a big thing, knowing that I can probably go in, be comfortable immediately, not worrying about that aspect of it, and just allow me to hopefully get into rhythm, routine, all that kind of stuff very quickly and get rolling instead of having to try to acclimate and then get going,
Yeah, and, obviously what you did when you were here in those 5 starts, you made it look easy. Was it? Did it feel easy to you, or was it? I mean, how would you describe your success when you're here?
If you recall, the 2 relief appearances prior to the starts were not so pretty.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hadn't played in 2011. Came off the surgery in 2012 in February, and so a lot of it was just rust, as well as coming out of the bullpen. I just really never ever done it. I did it a few times this past season, in 14, but at that time, that was completely foreign to me. So, I mean, I was doing the best I could, trying to shake the rust off and all that, but just a very different animal. Once I was able to get into the starting routine, I wouldn't say easy, but just for me, it's a comfort factor. Again, just getting into a routine. I've done it for so long that it's just what you're familiar with. So in that sense, it's easy to fall back into your patterns and your comfort zone. But as far as numbers-wise, that was a little bit of a lucky run as well. I mean, I had some help from some of the bullpen guys and that kind of stuff. So I would imagine that'd be hard to repeat.
Talking with Sean Hill, who's headed back to York here in 2015. When you were here, you were obviously coming off a very unique operation with the rib removal and everything. Do you feel like that is completely behind you now? I mean, do you feel normal? Do you still feel free and easy with the arm and everything?
Yeah, even more so, actually, at this point. Having that surgery, I had those surgeries in between my first Tommy John and then the thoracic outlet surgery. And in hindsight, we didn't know at the time, but it turns out that all those other surgeries were unnecessary. Essentially, I was misdiagnosed for 4.5 years, and the thoracic outlet surgery solved all of the problems that we've been kind of chasing our tails with. So, frustrating, but at the same time, relieved to finally get the answer. When I had that done in 2012, it immediately felt much better, but that was coming off of, I always had that constant pain. In the last couple of years, what's now happened is I started having, as a result of the surgery, some changes in my shoulder, my back, just the way things kind of settled and the way they were working. And that's why I concentrated in this offseason. I got together with a guy at Eric Cressy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but works with a lot of Red Sox guys based out of Boston and does a lot of performance and biomechanical stuff. So I got with him, and immediately he identified, he's like, yeah, you've got a bunch of small problems. Nothing huge, but you've definitely got a bunch of small problems going on that are contributing to you. Your shoulders kind of dropped, and that's obviously going to inhibit your ability to throw properly. So I was healthy, more or less, the last couple of years, but I wasn't really throwing the way I felt like I should be throwing. So now moving forward, like I said, I spent this offseason doing that, and I feel much, much better about where I'm at physically, being able to throw the ball the way I want to, like you said, free and easy. And I'm excited. I'm unsure, but I'm excited to see what's going to come out, because I feel like I'm physically way ahead of where I was last time I joined you guys.
Talking with Sean Hill, and after your time in York, I mean, you had some really unique experiences from here. Obviously, you got the call up with Toronto, and then you were pitching for Team Canada. Tell us a little bit about some of those things that developed, and of course, the return to the majors for one day, which I understand was kind of a unique story because you thought your season was finished at that point, right?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I picked up by the Blue Jays. They had a bunch of injuries, and I was throwing all the time, so I got picked up by them. Pretty standard stuff at that point. But then went to, at the end of the season, I joined Team Canada, and I went to Germany for the WBC qualifier. Over there through one game, actually beforehand, just a warm-up game, and then went over there through the one game against Great Britain to help us qualify for the WBC in the following year. And then came home. I had to fly home. I was the best man in Buddy's wedding back in Toronto. So I flew over there to Germany on Wednesday, pitched on Friday. No, sorry. Pitched on Thursday. Got on the plane Friday afternoon, back to Toronto. Ran, got my tux for the wedding. Went and was at the wedding, and I get a text from my agent. I'm sitting at the reception at the the head table, and I get a text saying the Jays may need you in Baltimore. I'm like, what they need me in Baltimore for? Not even crossing my mind. Shortly thereafter, I get a call from the farm director. Hey, we got a flight for you tomorrow night. Need you in Baltimore. You may start Tuesday or Wednesday. I was like, okay. I had essentially mentally shut it down at that point. I'm at a wedding, I'm flying home and all that kind of stuff. And then the game that I did get in, I was kind of like emergency on hold starter for a couple days, and then we got to the weekend, and I was going to be starting either Monday or Tuesday of the following week. And so on Saturday, I was in the bullpen as like emergency. And when you know it, Ricky Romero was pitching. He twisted his ankle, I believe, coming off the mound. And they called down and told me to get loose. I was like, oh, again, I was shut down essentially for the day. So just got it hot right away. Went in through 3 innings. We took the lead, so I ended up getting the win. And it was a relief appearance, my first one in the big leagues. Ended up getting the win, and a couple days later, the season was over. It was just kind of a whirlwind, but at the same time, kind of a cool story.
Yeah, absolutely, and doing it with your home province team once again, and then pitching for Team Canada in the spring of 2013. Those international competitions have to be such a unique feeling to be part of that. What was that like for you in the WBC?
It's pretty neat. It's a very different environment than professional baseball of any sort. Just because who you're playing for is completely different. I mean, no matter what anybody tells you, when you're playing a standard baseball, once you get to the big leagues, then you're on a good team with good chemistry. So many guys, you're playing for your team, but you're playing for yourself, trying to move up the ranks and that kind of stuff and establish yourself. So there's very much that individual game within the team game. And with Team Canada, I mean, yes, you're playing the individual game on the field, but the results, if you strike out and there's a pass ball and 2 guys score on it, you don't care. And if you give up a hard hit ball and the guy makes a great play, you don't care what it looks like as long as your team does its job and gets the win. So to me, it's a really fun environment. The WBC itself was fun. It was kind of bittersweet the way it ended for us. We had a couple bad breaks, but it's something that I'll definitely be looking forward to. Hopefully, being able to be part of again.
Well, Sean, as the off season is shortly coming to an end, which is a good thing. I'm sure everybody's got the itch to get going. How has the off season been? Are you guys still living in Florida at this time of year?
Yes, off season's been very good. Been very busy, like I said, working with Cressy and doing his program. Just trying to get myself into the best possible shape I could, to kind of give this a better run. Still down in Florida, which is we're actually just in the process of selling and purchasing a new home in the same area. So we're not moving very far. But there's been some change going on. We had our second daughter in May, so it's been the first off season with 2 kids, and trying to adapt to the whole new schedule and routine and all that kind of stuff. So it's been busy but good.
Do you feel like perhaps this year, I mean, you know so much more about what you had to go through a couple of seasons ago, some of the training that you've done this off season, could you possibly be more prepared now than you were a few years ago when you had so much success here?
I believe so, yeah. Like I said, putting the same results up is an entirely different story, but as far as physically how I feel, what I've done to get my shoulder working the way I want it to work, again, it's the first time in a long time that I've felt this way. I've thrown for a couple teams in the off season, and when I was there last time with you guys, I think I was probably, my velocity wasn't up. I was probably topping out at 88, 89, maybe touch 90 if I was lucky. But it just wasn't. I wasn't in pain, but it wasn't working the way it used to. Throwing for a bunch of teams this spring, I've been sitting 89, 91. And obviously that's a different than game situation where you would often expect to pick up a little bit. So as far as health, I feel like I'm way ahead of where I was. It's just a matter of going out there now and getting on mound, seeing hitters and seeing how they react to it. But I feel like I'm much better prepared to handle whatever situation comes at me now, because physically I'm able to do what I'm asking my body to do. As before, I was constantly fighting myself.
Well, Sean, we appreciate the time very much. Again, congratulations on getting your 2015 plans in order, and look forward to seeing you up here soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you.
right, Sean Hill. Mace, I always feel smarter after talking to him. He's very cerebral. I mean, some of the experiences that he's been through, you can't write up a guy's career like that. Some of the surgeries that have proved to be unnecessary. He's been through a little bit of everything, and he's probably pretty strong for it at this point in his career.
He is. He's very cerebral, like you said, and he's always even keeled. I've never really saw him lose it. Some guys you see him lose it, and they wear their emotions on their sleeve, but he never really does. I think he goes out there and he's confident in what he can do. We were talking during the interview. He survives on movement. He cuts the ball away and he sinks it in, and when he does that, he's really tough. And our infield should get a lot of ground balls if he's on point. And it's just always you just want to make sure the guys come in, and you don't want to push them right out of the gate with an extra workload. Just kind of let them ease into it, like he was talking about, and then once they hit their stride, then you just let them go from there.
If we have any kids that are listening that play youth baseball, is getting movement a function of playing around with grips on the side? I mean, can it be that simple?
It is, and everybody will grip the ball a little bit differently, obviously, because of hand size and the way your actual throwing motion is makes the ball come out of your hand at different angles, and you get the ball to move a little bit more or a little bit less depending on if you're a guy that throws it way back in your hand or gets it out on the fingertips. There's a lot of things that go into it, but for guys that don't light up radar guns at 95 to 100, you have to be able to move the ball around and change speeds even at the lower velocities. So a 70-mile-an-hour changeup coming off an 84-mile-an-hour fastball is just as impressive as a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and an 80-mile-an-hour changeup. It still changes speed, and you don't have to be an extra hard thrower to be able to use a good changeup.
Well, like we said, when he was ahead of the hitters, which he was in every start the first time around here, he really cruised through those games and ran the numbers, and I think overall it was like almost 70% of first pitch strikes over his 5 starts. So looking forward to seeing what Sean Hill will bring here in 2015. That's our first signing of the week. 2 more on this program, and we'll continue and unveil those as we continue. You're listening to Revs Hot Stove Weekly here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Security in life isn't something you just wish for. You build it with a strong financial plan. Start with Northwestern Mutual. Together, we'll design a disciplined and balanced approach to financial security, because reaching your goals is something we both want to work toward. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on the Square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey Revs fans, swing into spring at bundles of savings at the York Revolution. The Swing into Spring ticket plan gets you 6 field box seats to the game of your choice, 2 parking passes, plus admission for 2 to take live batting practice on the field at 2:30 for the Revs' 5 p.m. game against Long Island on Sunday, April 26th. Swing into spring with the York Revolution. Save when you shop at the Apple Chevrolet ticket office by phone at 717-801-HITS or online at yorkrevolution.com.
The new Wyndham Garden York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall, has been fully renovated and remodeled. With 177 upgraded guest rooms, over 16,000 square feet of meeting space, 2 large ballrooms, indoor and outdoor pools, a much larger fitness center, a new business center, and free Wi-Fi throughout. The new Fender's Grill and Pub features American cuisine in a casual atmosphere, using local meats, produce, wine, and craft beers. The new Wyndham Garden, 2000 Loucks Road in York. Stop in or call us at 846-9500.
Black Cap Brewing Company is a new brew pub featuring 8 taps of fresh, high-quality craft beer brewed on premises. Enjoy a variety of pub food, including appetizers, soups, panini sandwiches, and desserts, which are prepared by Red Lion's own Red Brick Bakery. Enjoy a casual, inviting, and family-friendly atmosphere as you relax with family and friends while enjoying some of the area's finest craft beer at Black Cap Brewing Company, located at 5 West High Street and Red Lion. Open Thursdays from 4 to 9 p.m. and Fridays and Saturdays from 3 to 10. Check out Black Cap Brewing Company on online at blackcatbrew.com and on Facebook.
Hi, I'm Daryl Henry. Join Scott Geis and me every Monday at 4 for your College Spartan Sports Weekly, right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Each week, we bring you the latest in Spartan sports, featuring guest appearances from coaches and student athletes. York's home teams play on York's home for local sports. Spartan Sports Weekly, Mondays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
This is Bo Vaughn of the York Revolution. Catch the Revs all season right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Weekly, we continue along. Daryl Henry along with Mark Mason. Ray Jensen is on the controls here, our next to last show of the preseason, which means that baseball is right around the corner, so that's a good thing. Mace, our next signing here on this week's program, you've added some catching depth, and Luis De La Cruz, a young catcher from the Dominican Republic, now lives in Florida, but several years in the Cardinals system. And tell us what you've learned, and are you expecting him to compete for a spot? And obviously, I know you like some depth in camp as well, but are you looking at him to make a run at one of those positions here maybe?
Oh, definitely. We're bringing him in. He has a reputation as an outstanding defensive catcher. I know they use him in the Dominican Winter Ball League, which is not easy to get a job in that league. And, there's been some good scouting reports on him. He does have some power. And so we're going to bring him in and we're going to take a look at him. He's a young guy, and, we're going to see what he brings to the table.
From what I've read about him, you look back over his minor league career, and it seems like almost every season he's up there within his league in terms of percentage of runners thrown out. So, I'm sure that's one of his strengths, like you mentioned, and the numbers would bear that out from what I've been able to see. Exactly.
Yeah, it'll just be a question of getting to know the pitchers and having some familiarity there. But the reputation for a strong defensive catcher with a great arm and can control the running game, obviously we like that. And, he can hit for some power. So I just thought we always use extra catchers in spring training anyway, just because of the amount of pitchers that we have and the amount of bullpens that need to be thrown here during the course of spring training. So it's going to give us an opportunity and him an opportunity to see what he can do and how he can perform here.
Yeah, I know you want to be careful with your pitchers, of course, in spring training. Kind of the same with the catchers, because there's an unbelievable amount of squats that need to be taken within those 10 days.
If we bring, most of these guys will throw almost every day to some degree, so there'll be a lot of catchers used. There'll be a lot of time spent in the bullpen area. Fletch will be standing down there for a long, long time on certain days. And, we usually break it up where we use the relievers a couple days in a row or every other day. The starters will be on their throwing program. If they're not pitching in games that day, they'll be throwing bullpens on the side or short boxes or whatever. So there is a lot of need for catchers, and it's good that way too, because with a few catchers here, we can move the catchers around where they can get work with all the different pitchers, and that'll help get them some, familiarity with what the guy throws, what kind of movement does he have, velocity, all those type of things that you need to know before you get into the game.
Could you see a situation where you would keep more than two heading into the season?
It's possible. I'm not going to say definite, but I'm going to say it is possible with it being able to carry 27 guys until June 1st. There's a chance, and we'll see how Panty's feeling after, last year when he got dinged up with the shoulder. He finished the year healthy, but I also don't want to kill him in spring training either. So it's going to give SB and Cruz a chance to, get out there and get some reps, and we'll see what they can do.
Luis De La Cruz, the latest signing to be announced, a catcher, and mostly in the Cardinals system. He had part of a year in the Braves system at Lynchburg, and then a little bit of Frontier League time as well. did he kind of have that label of organizational catcher in the Cardinals system, which is not a bad thing? I mean, that, it's I guess it's not prospect status, but it means that they trust you to work with their pitchers and kind of be a reliable stalwart in that sense.
I think so. I think you hit it right on the head there. And, sometimes when you get labeled that, it's hard to break that mold and get out of there. So hopefully by coming here, if he's able to perform well, you're getting scouted at that point by all the major league teams, and it gives you an opportunity not to be locked into one system where you really can't go anywhere with your career. Sometimes you just kind of, get a stalemate, and guys need a change of pace, and hopefully we can provide that.
You never want to compare two different players, but I know one guy who was an organizational catching label was Christian Lopez, and he became a really good everyday guy in Southern Maryland, so you do see that happen.
Absolutely. Sometimes guys just need a change of scenery and a different opportunity where they can actually show their skills and not be labeled, organizational or defensive or whatever it might be. Sometimes guys just need a fresh start, and I think that's what we try to provide here. And a lot of guys have taken advantage of that, and hopefully he will as well.
He seems like a pretty athletic guy, too, from what I've been able to gather.
I did get to see him catch a little bit on television this winter, and I liked what I saw. He threw a couple runners out in the game that I watched. So he seems like a really nice guy. We've had conversations on the phone, and he's really excited about the opportunity. So I like hearing that. And when we come in, then we'll see what we have.
MLB Network, or do you have some sort of connection to Dominican TV that you can scout the islands?
It was actually on Dominican TV, so just so you know. But it's actually something that Polo kind of talked to me about, and how I'd be able to get some of those games. So I know Polo watches a lot of winter ball, and so he was kind of filling me on how that works. So it was fun.
Yeah, I've seen it on the internet here. I've seen Chris Cody pitch some Dominican Winter League games, and they do a nice job. I don't understand everything they're saying, but
they're excited.
They are.
They're very excited about baseball there, and it's a great environment for guys that get to go down there and play, and that's a difficult league because there's a lot of big leaguers that go down there in the second half of that season to try to get ready for spring training, and so you're around a lot of very talented guys, and it's hard to break in there.
Well, look forward to seeing Luis De La Cruz in camp. That's an exciting signing, and I guess, Mace, it's fair to say maybe a little bit under the radar, but he could end up showing you something when he gets here.
He could be a pleasant surprise, and you do have those in camp, so we're hoping that this is one of those.
All right. Luis De La Cruz, 26-year-old catcher, signed, and that is our second signing of the week. We will take a time out here on Revs Hot Stove Weekly. Another one to go, and an interview as well. Stay tuned here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Black Cap Brewing Company is a new brew pub featuring 8 taps of fresh, high-quality craft beer brewed on premises. Enjoy a variety of pub food, including appetizers, soups, panini sandwiches, and desserts, which are prepared by Red Lion's own Red Brick Bakery. Enjoy a casual, inviting, and family-friendly atmosphere as you relax with family and friends while enjoying some of the area's finest craft beer at Black Cap Brewing Company, located at 5 West High Street and Red Lion. Open Thursdays from 4 to 9 p.m. and Fridays and Saturdays from 3 to 10. Check out Black Cap Brewing Company online at blackcapbrew.com and on Facebook.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy. Energy for life.
The new Wyndham Garden York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall, has been fully renovated and remodeled. With 177 upgraded guest rooms, over 16,000 square feet of meeting space, 2 large ballrooms, indoor and outdoor pools, a much larger fitness center, a new business center, and free Wi-Fi throughout. The new Fender's Grill and Pub features American cuisine in a casual atmosphere using local meats, produce, wine, and craft beers. The new Wyndham Garden, 2000 Louts Road in York. Stop in or call us at 846-9500.
Hey Revs fans, swing into spring with bundles of savings at the York Revolution. The Swing into Spring ticket plan gets you 6 field box seats to the game of your choice, 2 parking passes, plus admission for 2 to take live batting practice on the field at 2:30 for the Revs' 5 p.m. game against Long Island on Sunday, April 26th. Swing into spring with the York Revolution. Save when you shop at the Apple Chevrolet ticket office by phone at 717-801-HITS or online at yorkrevolution.com.
This is Anthony LaRue of the York Revolution. Catch the Revs all season right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Back here on Revs, I almost did it again. I almost called it the York College Show again.
No comment.
Trying to keep things straight. Back here on Revs Hot Stove Weekly. And time for our third and final player signing of this week. And Mace, another returning guy who has made a positive impression here in York, to say the least, and had him briefly early in 2011, briefly late last year. Has always succeeded here in York in a bullpen role, and that would be right-hander Mike DeMark, who's coming back this season. Mace, you were able to take advantage of the opportunity to sign him late last year and hoping for a big role for him this season?
He's definitely a great add for us in our bullpen. Mike and I go way back. I knew him from when he was at Marietta College. He was actually a teammate of Matty DeSalvo at the time. So God bless Don Shalley at that point. But, Mike is just – he's a great guy, intense competitor, very talented. And, I was just glad to get him away from Somerset last year at the end of the year. We went over there and played them in spring training last year, and I saw he was on the roster. And I said to him, why are you not with us? And – Mike, sometimes he's out there. And, he's like, I don't know what I was thinking, blah, blah, blah. I'll get there. We'll find a way where I can get back to York. So we were fortunate that actually Somerset released him at some point, I don't know, maybe in August. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know it was later in the year, and we were able to get him here, and he does a great job, so we're happy to have him.
And of course, 2011, he was signed by the Diamondbacks out of here early that season and was at AAA for a couple of years, and then Somerset and eventually York last season. So earlier this week, again, we caught up with Mike DeMark here on this show. He's out in Arizona, and here's what he had to say to us. With you, looking forward to having you back here as well. And first off, tell us a little bit about the process of re-signing, and did you leave here last year thinking that you'd probably want to come back here if you had the chance?
Every time I leave York, I always leave it open to wanting to come back. I just love being there. Mace and I have a really good relationship and talked about it last season. After things ended, you always want to come back and capitalize on what happened the season before. And I talked about, where I was at in my life and stuff like that, and Mace was a huge mentor and just kind of guided me through the process. So, when you're ready to make the decision, you'll know what you want to do. And this off season, I called him. I was like, all right, I'm getting the itch. It's December. Let's do something. Let's start working towards getting me back up there or something. So I'm excited to be back in York.
Is it a unique player-manager relationship with him, since you guys have some things in common and you've known him for a long time in Western PA and everything?
Yeah, it's nice to have somebody that you can kind of ask questions to and get an open, non-biased opinion from. He genuinely takes care and
the relationships he has with his players. And so, like, being able to be open and ask him, certain things that you're dealing with as a player and get the positive or the negative, no matter what it is, you're going to hear the truth from him. And that's what, a lot of us players need to get is honesty. And so that's one thing that I really value most about Mace is the honesty he has with his players.
Talking with Mike DeMarc, and it was such a strange situation, such a whirlwind, I'm sure, for you, the day that you literally walked maybe 100 feet from one clubhouse, fortunately, to ours when we were at Somerset. Were you surprised by that whole process, and how fortunate did you feel that the Revs were right there in town? You could kind of pick up where you left off and finish strong last season.
Yeah, it's an interesting story to have happen to you. My career's always had some sort of interesting story to go along with it. How I started being sight unseen, the first guy to sign in 30 years by San Diego is kind of unique. And, I hitchhiked to spring training my first spring. That's kind of unique, and now I get to add another story where I leave Somerset Patriots and I walked, like you said, 100 feet over to the next locker room and joined back up with the Revs. I mean, the stories in baseball are rather unique, and that's just another one I can add, I guess, to my portfolio,
Well, the hitchhiking to spring training I was not aware of. How did that happen?
Oh, yeah. That's surprising that I never told you that. When I first came down, when I first signed with San Diego, I didn't necessarily have the technology that we have today. There was no, internet at your fingertips or whatever. So a friend of mine, I'm staying at his house, and he explained to me that the Padres complex was just 3 blocks down, make a left, another 3 blocks. Well, here he didn't tell me that it was 10 miles away. Well, it was rather far. So it took me 5 hours to walk to where I got to, and finally I was lost and forget this, I'm hitchhiking. So I hitchhike. I pull up into Spring, I jump out of the back of this guy's truck, and they're like, "Who the hell are you?" Mike DeMarc, nice to meet you. That's how my first day went to San Diego, so that was quite the story, buzzing around Spring that year.
Oh, man. Well, I know hitchhiking is not recommended. Was he at least a nice guy to give you the ride?
Yeah, he was a nice guy. He actually ended up being a reverend, so when he pulled over, he had seen me. I was soaked in sweat here in Arizona. Just funny. It just happened to be a good person, thank God,
Yeah, and obviously one of the great stories about your career is how you became a pitcher, and I know we've talked about it at length before with, being DeSalvo's teammate and mimicking what he did in college. How often to this day do you stop and think, what if? I mean, what if I had stayed with infielding or didn't give pitching a try? Do you ever still give thought to that?
Oh, I always wonder all the time about how it all came about and just how much the people in my life have affected my career. And, Matt, being an older guy, and, I always looked up to him, and, I never really thought it could be possible to play pro ball, and not only the qualities mechanically as a pitcher, but the mindset that he kind of instilled in me playing at Marietta, never say die attitude kind of makes me want to, pick him up when I'm on my way to York this year, but I don't know, who knows if he would hop in the car,
Talking with Mike.
I still talk to him daily, he's doing good, and he talks to me about pitching still to this day, and we always say, what would have happened if I'd have been a position player? My career would have probably ended sooner than I would have thought, but this journey's been great. If I wouldn't have changed, it would never have happened, so.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. Talking with Mike DeMarc, and last year, just overall big picture, how big of a bounce back year was that for you? And I know a couple of the rough outings with Somerset were because you were a little bit sore or whatever. But big picture, I mean, how big was that to get you kind of back on track?
It's huge. Like we talked about Mace, kind of being a mentor in my career, and when I was there the first time, he kind of ironed some mechanical issues that I had out when he was the pitching coach, and I threw harder and better than I had ever thrown in my career. You know, and that little bit getting with him and Fletch there at the end of the season really helped me, you know, just mentally ironing some things out mechanically that I was having some issues with, causing my, you know, body to hurt. You know, once we did that, I think I went scoreless the rest of the time. So, you know, I'm really excited to get back up there and work with those guys again, because it always seems like when I get there, I always leave and I'm in better shape. So it's always rewarding to know that I'm going to a place where they're going to take care of me, you know?
Well, how do you feel now as far as your throwing process and working out and everything? Or do you feel like you're where you want to be here with a couple of weeks to go?
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually about to drop another surprising year. I lost 30 pounds.
Whoa!
I'm back at my fighting weight. I feel really good. I'm in great shape. This is probably the best shape I've been in a while. You know, physically and mentally. I've got to go down to Venezuela and work on some stuff, and that's where I started my diet. And then I just came back here and stuck with it. So I'm excited to see how all that works out for me this year. You know, putting my best foot forward right now. So
there's probably people that want to know what the secret is. They hear that you lose 30 pounds. They always want to know, you know, what's that magic secret? What worked for you?
I don't know. I think it was just clean. I started to eat clean. You know, I eliminated some of the bad things that I was doing, not cheating as much. Maybe, you know, I had 3 cheat days, now I only have 1. You know, just kind of eating healthier protein shakes, you know, smaller meals instead of stuffing myself. And, you know, I just get out there every day. I've been on my bike, you know, probably 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So that little bit of exercise, man, and a good diet goes a long way. So
as I sit here drinking my soda, you're out there in in Arizona, and you mentioned biking. I mean, are you into that type of outdoors activity? Is that something that you know? It's, I guess with the weather, you almost want to get out and do things.
Yeah, you know, and being up in Pittsburgh, I had the advantage of the snow and, you know, getting out and doing all that kind of stuff and that activity. But down here with the heat and, like you're saying, like 9 months out of the year, it's perfect weather. So it's like I can get out and me and my lady, we do some hiking, you know, and like I said, we've been biking. So lots of activities to do outside down here in Arizona. I just love it.
So what else has kept you busy this off season? I know you mentioned that you got a dog. That's cool.
Yeah, I got a dog, half lab, half terrier. I've been looking for something like that forever. I was just always infatuated with how adorable labs are when they're little, and I wish that they could just like keep them small. The closest thing that we could get to, you know, to keeping the lab as little as possible. But he's great. You know, we're working with the Frisbee a little bit, so maybe I'll bring him up, and the dog up there can teach him a thing or two.
Yeah, I don't know if Frisbee is one of Boomer's strengths or not, but we can certainly find out. So, Mike, good to catch up with you. Thank you very much for the time, and we'll look forward to seeing you here shortly. It won't be long, and congratulations on signing and coming back.
I'm excited to be back. I just want to say hi to all the fans, and especially Linda and Dave Davidson. They're great people. Hi, guys.
They are Mike's home away from home, and Mace, you've added another character to this team, that's for sure.
We enjoy the characters. It makes the summer go by a little faster.
We with Rami intending to see about starting, is Mike a guy that could potentially be that 9th inning guy, depending on what you see? He
is, and I do think we've probably signed about 3 or 4 guys that could close, but you know, I think we'll take a look at Mike right out of the gate and see how it works.
All right. So this week, Sean Hill to the rotation, Luis De La Cruz, a catcher, Mike DeMarc to the bullpen. Pretty good stuff. And 1 week to go. I don't know about you. This has made the offseason go fast doing this each week.
I agree. It's flown. It's hard to believe we're into April, and hopefully winter is behind us and we can get ready to start playing some baseball around here.
All right. Won't be long. The team will be on the field. We'll have one last show next week. And make sure you tune in at 4 for the final player signings live on the program on this very radio station to lead us into spring training. Next Friday at 4. Also, if you've missed any of these, archives are on WOYK1350.com as well, so be sure to check those out. That'll wrap up this week. Another good week under our belts just about here. For Ray Jensen here in studio, Mark Mason joining me, Daryl Henry saying so long here on Revs Hot Stove Weekly. Again, we'll talk to you next Friday at 4 right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.